a friend of mine who was a master SIG armorer who handled one of the guns and the holster that's on a video, and I'm not going to say which one exactly, but there's many videos out there of them going off in law enforcement holsters. And at the request of that police agency, he took that gun, that holster, and wiggled it some in the holster and was able to get the striker to fall forward. Now, that's not something I read on the internet. That is a known and reliable informant.
Welcome to Gun Club Radio. My name is Aaron, and unfortunately, we have to continue the questions or even the conversation around the SIG P320. And to help myself better understand what is going on, I reached out to Gunsite, who was in the news recently as being one of the training schools, academies, places of learning the gun that has gone out of their way to possibly negatively impact their business by saying, hey, if you come to our school, you can't bring your P320. Bring anything else but the P320. And that's got to have some sort of negative consequence for them. I personally have seen that in my own life. I'm on a security team, and when the question of, hey, maybe we should restrict 320s on the team came up, a lot of guys said, hey, listen, I don't know if I'll be able to clock in. So clearly, there are social impacts and professional impacts to these decisions. I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. So I invited Ken, former sheriff, and the CEO of Gunsite to come on to the show with us, talk about it a little bit more, and hopefully we can understand it. I'm not going to ramble on for too much longer. Let's go ahead and have a conversation. Hey, Ken, welcome to the show.
I appreciate being on here, Aaron.
Yes, sir. Well, I don't want to take too much more time kind of introducing this scenario, but if you could just kind of let people know your role at Gunsite, and then we'll dive into the 320 conversation.
Sure. Let me touch on Gunsite first. For the folks that don't know, Gunsite is the world's oldest and largest privately owned firearms training academy. This is our 49th year of business. A gentleman, a retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel by the name of Jeff Cooper, founded Gunsite in 1976. 162 acres, 2 square ranges, a live fire shoot house, and one live fire outdoor simulator. And now we're over 3,200 acres. We have 27 ranges we admit to the insurance company. We have multiple live fire indoor and outdoor simulators. We train everybody from the little old lady who's a door greeter at Walmart to the CIA to celebrities. But our bread and butter is your listeners, the folks that are listening and watching right now. Our primary business is not military and law enforcement. A lot of folks seem to think that. My background is I came out here in 1990. I was a dark-haired lieutenant on a Midwestern sheriff's office, a SWAT team commander, a firearms instructor. I'd been to other schools, Masada Ubri, Chapman, Smith & Wesson Academy, Glock, and so on, but I wanted to learn from Jeff Cooper. So I came out here in 90, and then I came on the part-time staff in 93. We've got about 65 part-time instructors. 99% of us are law enforcement, military, both, active duty or retired. And we bring them in from all over the country to teach their respective classes. And I said we've been at this 49 years. Next year's the big party at 50. So that's kind of the background on Gunsite. We're not trying to sound pompous, but Gunsite's legendary in the firearms training community, as is Jeff Cooper.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Jeff Cooper is known for popularizing a lot of important concepts, and forgive me if I'm misquoting, but including basically like the conditions, like condition white, condition yellow.
Color code, 7 principles of personal defense, the 4 safety rules that have become universal, teaching from shooting one-handed to using both hands. Then we can, for another show sometime, we can talk about Weaver stance and what some people believe it to be versus what it really is, and how it's evolved into a modern fighting stance and so on. But that's another show. So I'm just inviting myself back.
Of course. Of course. Well, you're always welcome back. We'll just put that out there. But, we talked about, okay, Gunsite's this legendary school founded by basically a legendary practitioner and instructor in the space. And the oldest school in America
In
has
the
just
world.
said, hey, listen, in the world, excuse me, has just said, hey, listen, we don't know about the P320.
Okay.
We don't think we can do this anymore.
Let's back up here a little bit. Attorneys and insurance companies rule the world. Okay, no matter what business you're in, whether you work at the library or your business. Number one. Number two, I'm a former county sheriff, so I understand liability, and I also understand the term vicarious liability. There's also, and I'll get into that here in just a minute, but there's also that phrase that if it's predictable, it's preventable. If I have reason to believe, a reasonable person has reason to believe that something bad can happen with a widget, and I continue to allow that widget to be used, and something bad happens, it's not just your fault, it's my fault too.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to keep that in mind. And SIG is legendary in our industry. We've been good partners with SIG. SIG Academy has sent people here, their staff here, to learn what we do, and we share our ideas. You and I spoke of that a little bit before we came on the air here, in sharing ideas. Keeping good people alive is what our business is. So we're partners with them. And we had some of their 320s in our rental fleet. But with all of the reports that continue to come in, and some cursory investigation on our part, we felt like the risk was too great for us to continue to assume to allow a student to have a 320 in class because of the information that's out there. Now, we're not saying no SIGs. I've got a 226 from back in 1990. I've got a SIG 365. Back in my SWAT team guy days, I carried an MP5. They make great guns, but there just seems to be an issue here. And once it gets resolved, and SIG is a leader in our industry, and I'm confident they will try to get this sorted out. Once that happens, if the 320 has a fix, then sure, they'll be welcome back. But that's the only SIG platform that we ban is the 320 and all those variants.
Okay. Now, the public statement did note significant questions. Now, obviously, like you said, insurance guys and lawyers, they're probably nudging you in the ribs and saying like, hey, listen, a lot of companies are making this step. Was there any particular incident that said like, hey, we got to do it now? Because there were some companies stepping away from the platform prior to the incident in the Air Force.
We had pulled their rental guns from our counter of rental guns a few months ago, just because of our concerns in there. And I had read the FBI Michigan State Police report, but that wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back. We do youth classes here, kids age 12 to 16, and it's the exact same class you take, the exact same 5-day pistol class you take. We do all 3 levels of pistol and a general rifle class. And the week before we banned, we had a young lady here who was about 5 foot nothing and about as big around as my little finger, and she was carrying a SIG 320. And God made ladies a little bit different than us, and their hips protrude out a little bit, and the way the gun rode in the holster, it pointed back toward her thigh, and it was a SIG 320, and that caused me great concern. And I spoke with her mom about it, and she was unaware of any problems with SIG 320s and these detonations in the holster. And I talked to her about it, and I even gave her a copy of the Michigan State Police report. And I offered her one of my personal guns, a Glock, an M&P, whatever it is, because I was concerned that if that went off, that would go right through her thigh, and I don't need that here. So she opted not to do that. So she successfully completed class on Friday and headed on home. And I stewed on that over the weekend. And not just the vicarious liability of it, but my own conscience. I have a granddaughter same age, and if that would have happened to one of my granddaughters, I couldn't have lived with myself. Well, why could I if it happened to this young woman? So that Monday morning, the final decision was made that we're just going to ban these guns from student use here, excepting law enforcement, military, and there's some other caveats in there I'm sure we can get into. But it was all of the different incidents that are happening. I'm also familiar with a friend of mine who was a master SIG armorer who handled one of the guns and the holster that's on a video, and I'm not going to get any say which one exactly, but there's many videos out there of them going off in law enforcement holsters. And at the request of that police agency, he took that gun, that holster, and wiggled it some in the holster and was able to get the striker to fall forward. Now, that's not something I read on the internet. That's in my prior life, that is a known and reliable informant, would be the term. Okay. So between
that's actually news. That's a big deal that you brought that up.
So from my belief and my concerns for this young woman, I in good conscience. Number two, I also have to protect the company, and there's vicarious liability there. If something happened, if they shot themselves, or if they had it, were taking their gun off in the holster, taking their whole gun rig off, something happened, I can't allow it. So that's where we are with it.
And that's fair enough. And I do want to address the question about the law enforcement exception, but I will share a quick story. I did actually witness somebody. What I believe is a shirt got caught in the holster, and there's really nothing in between you and that trigger and the sear. No sort of trigger safety or whatever you want to call it, which isn't required, but it would be nice. And it's an older gentleman, probably about your age, and blew a hole straight through his thigh.
Easy now, easy.
But you get what I mean. This guy blew a hole straight through his leg, and thankfully it was a colder day, and I don't think he had the best blood flow, so he didn't bleed out on the spot. And just the way the round hit him, and we were training, so we weren't carrying self-defense rounds. But imagine, right? Like, what your concern to me was very valid. Like, hey, listen, if somebody is carrying a weapon, and however it's positioned on their body, it's pointing towards flesh, that could be it. That could be it for them, and that would be extremely unfortunate. And no one's bigger than the company, right? So
let me throw in something else too. We have rental guns here, whether it's my personal gun that I say here, just use this, or whether it's one of Gunsite's guns. And we've had a couple other manufacturers come to us and say, look, if it's a matter of money, just let the student use our gun. So I'm not trying to hurt people financially. I've got a couple of students that the only gun they owned was a SIG 320, like you were mentioning some of your security partners. That's the only, they only own one gun. Mm-hmm. So we're making other firearms, holsters, magazines, and mag pouches available to them. Again, if they can rent them from us, that's good. But if it comes down to a financial need, I'm not here to be the world's philanthropist. But our main goal is to keep good people alive through training, and we don't want to impede that training.
Right. Now, let's get to that next point. Right. Go ahead.
Well, with law enforcement and military, right?
Yes.
We discourage it. Right. We don't really want it. And if it's a right-hander, I'll probably put them all the way down to the right end of the line. If it's a left-hander, all the way down to the left, to try to diminish some of the risk. But if that is that officer's sole issued gun, and that's what the chief or the sheriff says, this is what you're going to carry, and they need to get the training, I'm a little hard pressed there on not allowing them to train. I'm going to discourage the daylights out of it. I don't want them here, but if it comes down to that's all that officer can do. If it's you, if it's a citizen, we'll get you something else. There's nobody that says you have to carry an Acme Go Faster blaster. It says that you can make your choice. Military and law enforcement don't always have that choice. Right. So we're trying to be as flexible as we can and as good as we can till SIG can get all these issues resolved.
Right. And there's a question of, do they even fully believe that there's an issue? Being that they're actively fighting lawsuits. Lawyers will require that. But I think that's a question for maybe a deeper conversation. When you announced this, and when other people announced it, hey, we're going to be restricting P320, SIG actually filed a lawsuit against, I forget who, to ask them to not restrict it, that it's a violation of Second Amendment rights, XYZ. For your connections to SIG, obviously you have direct connections to them. You're a large enough organization. You're on their radar. Did they have anything to say?
Not heard from them other than the generic statements that they've sent out, showing that their belief that the gun doesn't have a problem and so on. And I'm not looking to get in a lawsuit with anybody. I've been sued before, believe me. Run for sheriff, you'll be sued. But I'm not looking to be sued for them. And we've not trash talked them. We're just saying that we believe we can document enough issues here that it's a concern. And I hope they don't choose to be litigious in this matter, and I don't expect that. Again, they're a good company. They're a respected company. They just need to get the rest of their due diligence done to decide if they believe there's something wrong, and then if there is, what they can do to fix it, or be able to convince not just me, but those millions of SIG owners that are out there.
Yes.
When whoever owned Tylenol many years ago, they had a problem where some, I think it was up Chicago area, I'm going back 30 years ago, started slipping some poison into some Tylenol bottles. And that really started hurting their brand. And they came right out on the front end of that and fixed it and so on. And I'm sure they lost a lot of money, but they came out on the front end. So I'm hoping if SIG does recognize, acknowledge that the 320 has a problem, then I hope they can get on the front end of this real big and get back into the position that they need to be in the gun industry.
Yes, and I hope that people listening, whether they be big supporters of Gunsite, or maybe they never heard of you, or maybe they've never heard of me, but they clicked on a YouTube video, podcast link XYZ, that they don't see this as SIG bashing. Literally, I carried a P365
I
today.
defy anybody from saying we bash SIG here. I just defy it. That's not what we've done. We've had 4 clients come to us and say, well, I'm not going to take a class now because the SIG is my gun. Okay, well, that's why there's chocolate and vanilla ice cream in the world. You choose one or the other, but we have to look out. Safety has always been paramount at Gunsite from day one, and we have to continue that. And that's what we're stressing here. It's not. I'm saying SIGs are evil. I'm saying this gun may have a problem. We recognize that. And again, when I'm trying to make something else available, I'm not trying to say, here, you've got to use this HK. Here, you've got to use a Gunsite service pistol. Here, you've got to use this M&P. We're saying, look, we'll make some guns available to you. If it's financial burden, we'll help you with that. I'm not buying your ammo, but we'll help you with the gun. So we're not trying to be foul or rude to anybody. Again, we've had 4, and then we have had much, much more people say we understand or we support it. So that's
well, and that was one of my later questions that I hoped to ask is, what has the financial or even social impact been? Obviously, you said 4 people have told you. Do you have any data to suggest, or do you anticipate losing much more money? Obviously, big training school, students are your bread and butter.
No, we're not seeing it all. I've got 50 veterans here this week we do classes for vets of the global war on terror. So I got 46. And 2 of them originally had scheduled to bring 320 variants. And we sent them notice, 2-3 weeks ago, that they could not. Checked with them on Monday morning when they came in. They said, no issues, no worries. We had something else. And there was no grief whatsoever.
Yeah. Yes. It's been interesting seeing how people have responded. And I've known some guys who ride or die SIG fans say like, hey, listen, this is concerning. And also the other side, still in denial, still in the Mississippi. It's kind of wild. So I guess we kind of touched on the lawyer thing, right? He's like, hey, our lawyers, they'll kind of nudge us in a certain direction. But did you directly consult any industry counsel, or is it just kind of like meeting of the minds,
No,
Gunsite or any
no,
lawyers?
this was a business decision of ours. We didn't involve our attorneys. I say attorneys and insurance companies rule the world, and they do, but I don't have to go to them to run a business on day-to-day operations. I know what liabilities are. I know what vicarious liabilities are, and I'm going to do everything I can to make this Gunsite as safe a place as we can, as well as reduce the liabilities to us and to our clients. We call them Gunsite family. So I'm going to reduce
Yeah.
that risk to our Gunsite family as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. And earlier you did kind of answer that, hey, if SIG comes out and they claim a fix, that you would be likely to permit them. To what
Absolutely.
degree do you feel a fix would be, are they saying like, hey, recall and install, this trigger safety that's been kind of floating around the web or whatever? Or are we talking something else entirely? Like how much of a
Well,
fix is good enough?
if we could answer that question right now, we'd both be making a whole lot more money.
So much money.
But we've got to wait and see what the fix is, and then make sure the fix works.
Mm-hmm.
Remember on that the thumb safety, you mentioned it, that locks the trigger. It doesn't do anything else to the firing mechanism.
That's
So
unfortunate.
it is. But so I'm saying we will allow them, but proof will be in the pudding, as the old saying goes. So we'll see what the fix is, and we'll see how well it works, and then we'll talk about letting the guns come back into our courses again.
Okay. And to be extraordinarily clear, 365s, 226, all the other guns that they make, minus the M18s, M17s, 320s.
The only thing we have banned are the SIG 320 platforms and all their variants.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So we want to call it an M17, M18, but the 320 firing platform is what's banned. The 226s are welcome. The 365s are welcome. The 229s, I can't keep track of all the gun numbers anymore. I wish I could, but
they love their numbers.
Welcome. This is solely the one platform that seems to have some significant issues.
Okay. Now, that was pretty much the bulk of all my questions in regards to how Gunsite is handling the restrictions. And I'm just kind of looking back. I think this is maybe a turning point in this whole conversation, because this question's been going on for years, and maybe I'll throw a little bit of a well, never mind on that. I'm just fascinated to see this, and I guess, do you feel that by Gunsite having to make this decision, and other companies and brands and even people who supply them, supply customers with third-party accessories, even saying like, hey, listen, we're going to have to scale back. We don't want to be included on a lawsuit. Do you feel like this is positive peer pressure, or a good thing for the industry, or is this maybe looked at differently by you guys?
I don't care whether you sell widgets or cars or whatever products you sell. Sometimes there's something will come up where it's not working right, and the turning point is how you handle that, how you respond to it, how you deal with it, and to regain that public confidence. And I think SIG, from my little window on the world, so this and $1 will get you a soda out of a machine at a big box store, right? Because it's my opinion. But I think they're at a turning point as to their credibility, and they're going to need to be able to get behind this somehow, and get the issue that we perceive, get that issue to be fixed, and then gain that credibility back with the firearms market. So I think that's what the turning point is.
Okay.
But again, that's solely Ken's opinion, and I base that on a lot of gray hair.
Okay. Was there anything that maybe you felt you needed to touch on before we wrap this thing up?
No, again, I just want to be clear to the folks that we're not SIG bashing. Again, we've had a good relationship with them. I own a 365. My wife owns a 365. I've got a 226 from back in some police days back years ago. So SIG is a good company. We're not bashing them. Your safety, the people watching and listening right now, your safety is what's paramount to us, and that's why we've discontinued the use of that particular SIG model, the 320s. That's it.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and sign off, and we'll go from here.
Okay. And there's one last thing I always say at the conclusion of all interviews. When are you coming to Gunsite?
I love that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, listening, wherever you are. Ken from Gunsite, he's been a great guest, and I hope that you were able to hear his thoughts and hear his processes behind the serious decision to discontinue the use, as for now, of the 320 platform. And I feel he's answered satisfactorily, or to a satisfactory note, but you answer in the comments or send me an email and, share if you feel like maybe we missed something important. And of course, thank you so much for watching, listening, wherever you are. This has been Aaron, Gun Club Radio. Bye.